So, I want to show you how to write some kind of reasonable stuff in Python. So let's start the same place we started in processing. Let's see if we can get this to roll dice. Right? Hopefully that should be easy. Actually, I guess we could start at the exact same spot we started in processing and see if we can get it to say something to us. But you guys already did that. Okay, so I'm going to call this dice2.py because I already have a dice.py. Yes, I'm going to rename it. Shut up. I already changed my default opening program to CodeWriter, so now I have CodeWriter up, and my PowerShell is open in the right thing using the trick. Okay, so now then. First, how do I make this just say something so I know I'm executing a file? What do you do? Print. Parens, quotes.
The dice roll is
boss. Dice roll. Cool. Alright, so if I then save this and go over here and type, what do I type to execute that file? py space dice2.py. Yeah, so py space file name. Then enter, dice roll, colon, cool. Alright. Next. Sure. Maybe like this. It's probably a function, right?
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm doing shitty coding, right? Because I'm just like, new language, I'm just going to like guess some stuff and see if it works. This is actually a pretty good philosophy, because oftentimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't work quite the way you think it's going to. Oops, not in there. How do I get this to run?
Save it.
Good, save it first. Go over here, do... Random is not defined. Crap. Yeah, it's really whining that it doesn't know how to do random. Okay. So I need to like go figure out Python random. Python random. And I want 3.6.4 stuff. This sounds wild. Oh, okay. So it seems like it needs random dot and maybe... Oh, here's one for integers. That's kind of what I want, right? Basically, I just looked down this until I found integer. Right? Random.randint? Okay, so... random.randint, and then I need a number, right? Like 6?
1,6.
Oh, you want 1,6? Is that the syntax for it?
That's what it said.
Let's see. Returns a random integer a less than n less than or equal to b. Okay, cool. So the less than or equals are on both sides. Cool. Good. Check. Now what?
Save.
Save. Control S. Run thing. Annoyed. Name random is not defined. Crap. Oh, it's in a library. You guys see that?
That's fun.
Like, it's saying that it's a library. There's like the word modules. There's all this. Let me try something stupid. You guys see what I added here? I just added import random. That's usually a good idea if something's like a library or a module. Like, if you don't know you've got it, maybe importing it's the right idea.
Hey.
F yeah. Sometimes you really can guess your way through a little bit of code. If that had not worked, what would my next step have been? What's that?
I'm just like Google.
Yeah, Google how to import a library. Or, like, go back to the results for random. Like, see if you can find a bit of example code. Right? You'll probably find one someplace. Do you guys remember... I think there was a better way to get this to print. Like, this is printing on 2 lines. Do you remember a way to, like, put a...
Comma, and then the rest of it.
Okay, so if I put comma and then this random int thing... how do I comment a line out if I don't want it anymore?
Wasn't it with the pound?
Pound? Nice. Oh, look, it turned a different color. That's probably commented out, right?
Maybe.
Cool. And then I can run it, and I'm getting... There's a 6 and a 1. And I might just try it a few more times to get... See if there's a... What am I looking for?
0.
Yeah, I'm looking for something that's not between 1 and 6, or that isn't an integer, right? It should be noted, too, that I probably don't need the random dot. Let me try it without the random dot. Nope. No, it likes the random dot.
I guess I just use this from that library.
Yeah. Cool. Questions, Steels? Okay.
Could you do rand float just to see if it works?
Oh, yeah, sure. Let's try something else. So if I go look in here, right, there's like functions for integers, bookkeeping. Let's see. Oh, look, it's just random.
Oh, okay.
So if I took the random int part off of there, actually, let me do this. Let me take this whole line of code and copy it, and try the same thing without the random int. Cha. What? Oh, yeah, it doesn't want to do random.
Random dot random?
Nice. Good call. Oops. Random takes no arguments. 2 given. What do you mean random takes no arguments? Pretty sure it said random took 2 arguments. Where was that? It was right here. Oh. Oh. Random doesn't take any arguments. You guys see that?
Range from 0 to 1.
Yeah, it just says make a floating point, random floating point between 0 included and 1 not included. So if I wanted a random number between 0 and 6, I think I'd need to get a random number between 0 and 1 and then multiply by 6. Or I could use this uniform thing, and that would seemingly take 2 arguments and then create a... So what's up with this, right, is the random thing lets you specify which distribution you want your random number out of. So they're not necessarily equally likely in any little range, right? They might be like more likely in the middle or less likely in the middle and more likely on the ends or something. Like that's what all of these things are doing. So these are like different ways to get random numbers that aren't just uniformly distributed. I'd probably just go for this straight up like, let's just multiply by 6. What's your guess on how do I multiply by 6 here?
Asterisk 6.
Yeah, probably an asterisk and then a 6. Definitely the 6 part.
You gotta get rid of the 1 to 6 though.
Oh yeah, and it's going to complain about the 1 to 6 again, right? So, now try. Boom. Float. Oh, cool. We can see how long a float is.
Hey, it's above 1.
Yeah, and that one's above 1.
And if you wanted it to be bigger, you'd go to the long variable, is that correct?
Yeah. Python 3 doesn't really seem to care. Like, if you declare a variable, so let's just say, let's take x and make it equal to this. And we'll take we'll make a variable named y that will make equal to this other thing. This seems a little bizarre, right? Like, why does this feel a little wrong? Like, why does this feel screwy from processing?
Because you don't have to declare what type of variable x or y are.
Yeah, I didn't tell it which thing to expect for x and y. I just told it that x was something and y was something, and let's see if it works. Oh, like, it doesn't care. So, like, x is an integer and y is a float, and it just couldn't care less. You guys with me on that? What if I, like, try to stick them together? Like, what if I did print... Oops. Lost my parenthesis. Print, like, x plus y is, and then did x plus y. What should that be adding together?
An integer and a float.
Should be adding an integer and a float. Might that cause problems?
In processing, it would.
I think in processing it'll sort it out, unless you try to store it in an integer, right? But here, if you try to... Here, let me make another integer. Let me make z is 1. Oops. Sorry. Not... My processing reflexes are not serving me well, because I seem to try to end lines with... So, if I make here... Let me make z equals to x plus y. Right, z should be an integer type, because I said it was 1 up there. You guys see that? So, right now, z is an integer type, and then here I just said, okay, so z is going to be x plus y, which should be a float. Right, so if I copy this line again, and put a z in here, oops, z should be doing integer arithmetic, right? Because I just shoved a float into an integer. So it should get weird. It should be annoyed with this. Let me try it, just see. Oh. It doesn't care at all. And if I wanted to be more honest with my code, I guess I'd put a z there.
It doesn't care about velocity, map. It just does that on its own.
Yeah, so Python doesn't care about the variable typing. It'll just do it. Which is
Nice.
kind of nice. It's kind of rad. It's not going to yell at you about trying to store an integer in a float. But it's also a little weird in that, so here's z as an integer up top, right? And then down here z as a float. And then if I set z equals some string, like, no matter what else is going on that I think is convenient, it should yell at me for that. Right? Because z was a number, and then I made it a string. No shits are given about this. Python will let you reassign a variable's type all day long. So be careful.
So is that why you don't declare int z, whatever?
Yeah, that's why I'm not doing variable declarations, because Python is one of the languages that just auto-types based on what you input. Which is, like, it's nice in that I don't have to declare variables and I don't have to worry about, like, integer versus float bullshit. But it's a little scary, because, like, if I write the wrong variable name, like, especially if your variable names are kind of messy, right? Like, you have, in one of my other examples, right, I had body color and, like, body mass were kind of next to each other, right? Well, if I had body X, body Y, and body Z, where Z was a string, X was an integer, and Y was an integer, I could accidentally, just with a typo, right, overwrite a string into one of my integer things and then try to feed that to something that needs an integer. So it does make for occasionally, like, really frustrating typo finding problems. So it is going to be extremely crucial in Python that you comment your code well, right? Because Python's not going to yell at you for mismatches in type. Cool?
Can you force it to be a
Oh, can I like make it stay as an integer?
or
or-
if you add x and y, can you or if you have z equals x plus y, can you then have z return an integer?
You could probably typecast it, but I haven't played with those functions yet in Python 3, so right now I'm not sure. We could make some experiments to try. I wanted to demo one more thing here with the couple of minutes I have. So what I'd like to demo is for loops. So I kept like re-rolling my dice, right, by rerunning the program. What if I wanted to just straight up get 20 dice rolls without rerunning the program 20 times?
Could you make a loop run a set amount of times?
Yeah, we should make a loop, right? Like, same idea. I'm going to dump the stuff about fiddling with arithmetic out of this, right? And I'm also going to dump that guy and that guy. Okay, so now I think I have this back to just my dice rolling. Okay, so a bunch of commented out crap down there. All right. How do you write a for loop? Did you guys get to the looping stuff in Python yet?
Not yet.
Okay, so you do for, right? Because why wouldn't you? I in range of something. Cool. What's what now?
For any number I.
So that's I an element in this range. Let's just try it.
Oh, so it's
Oh, whoops.
within basically.
So let's see if this works. Expected an indented block. Oh, so it didn't yell at me about the for loop.
So it cares about your indents then.
But this language cares about your indents. So there's a good reason that I've been like indenting my code and processing well. One of those reasons is it's easier to read it and it's easier to debug it. And the other reason is some languages care. So I tend to indent my code in all languages because when I write pseudocode that goes from when I want to translate from one language to another, which sometimes I do, I would like to not have to worry about like thinking about which things need to be indented in the new language or the old language. So if I just indent those two things, actually let me just indent that one. That'll be interesting. See, that didn't seem to work, right? But it didn't yell at me, right? It just like did this one thing. Why does it seem to be either 6s or 3s? Yeah, so what's going on? Which thing is indented in the for loop?
The X.
Yeah, just the x equals a random number part. Right? So it's looping through that, and it's getting a random number 1 through 6 20 times. But then which one is it printing?
The last one, I'm thinking.
Only the last one. So if I also indent the print, there's my 20 dice rolls. You guys see that? So let's check that I got 20. No, let's change 20 to a more manageable number, like 5. And then check that I got 5. Oops. What the heck? I don't know what the hell happened there.
What's the syntax of the for
It's like 5.
I can't read that.
Oh, sorry. I can maybe make the font bigger on this thing.
For with a variable in, which I guess.
Yep, so it's
within.
For variable in range of number. So range number is getting a... we could even do weirder things. Here, let me show you a weird one. For I and test. And it makes 4. Because it's doing T and going through the loop, E and going through the loop, S and going through the loop, T and going through the loop. Right? So you can loop on weird stuff in Python. It'll let you loop on strings. It'll let you... probably could try this, but my guess is it won't work.
Does it have to increment in
Yeah. Int is not iterable. In other words, yo, dude, I don't know what you mean to be in 4. Like, that doesn't make any sense. But in something that's got like an array, like if I knew how to declare an array, I would try this with an array. I don't, so whatever. But then the range command, this guy, is just making a list, right? Out of this number, like say 4, this is making the list 1, 2, 3, 4. And we could look up documentation for it, but whatever. Cool. Questions, things?
does it always have to increment by 1?
It does not always have to increment by 1. You can make it increment by different amounts, if you so choose. Cool. If you want to increment by something different, Google it quick and give it a try. The syntax is not terribly different. Questions, things? Cool. Another thing you could do is instead of using a for loop, you could use a while loop. So if you wanted to increment over something different, you could force an incrementation command, like I equals I plus 2, and then do while I is between 0 and 10, and then it would go up by 2s. So there are some other options, but they're essentially the same as they were in processing, just with slightly different syntax. And the major takeaway from this is that the indents matter. Everything that's indented is going to get done. If you want to do a loop within a loop, you indent the inner loop and then double indent everything that you want to have happen in that inner loop.